Dandelion Song. So I was looking here at Simpson numbers. This is their 8 episode, season 8. And let me see, I have the actual number of this. It's the 150th episode by my calculations. It's the 161 episode by their calculations. So I'm going to take a look at this, but so I still have this one up. This is where Homer goes to prep school. That's what this one's called, and it's the 924 episode. And I know people are a little bit tired of this date, but this episode has to do with an EMP. And the EMP numbers are still, I think, kind of active. So I do want to take a look at this one. So a little bit of a background on this. They have this as their 517 episode. I have this as the 507 episode. And we've been talking about how this date 9, now I can't remember which date. Oh, I think this is a 924. And the 923 corresponds to the 106 number, which we were associating with another date. Now these might not be dates, maybe they're meridians. Maybe there's some other code in here. We do have a hurricane, we did have a hurricane recently that probably corresponded with these October dates. Let me fix this. So this episode is about Homer joins some preppers. So my computer keeps crashing, so I'm trying to make this episode without my computer crashing, but I had to open up a bunch of tabs because I wanted to show you some things. So in this episode called Homer goes to prep school. Okay, so this is about becoming a survivalist, and he joins some survivalists, but there is an EMP that happens at work because he causes it. He neglects, it says here, I've seen this, but I forgot what happened. So he neglects his job at the nuclear power plant. As a result, the electromagnetic pulse blacks out all of the power in Springfield. So I've looked at this episode before. I have a few videos on this episode. So this talks about a nuclear accident right here. I think, I don't know. I'm not trying to predict anything. I'm just looking at the code and the coincidences. So this, I don't think, is in every opening part of The Simpsons. But it's here at 9-3, or the 39, which I believe now, if my memory serves me right, that corresponds to October 13th. Or possibly just the numbers. Could be a meridian date. It might not be a meridian. It might not be an actual date. Well, anyway, days without an accident. So you can see they're switching the 23 here. Days without an accident. So he's on a ladder. But let's look at days without an accident. That also has a 923, and also a 2068 on the top. So this would be an 8. This is the 68 that we talk about a lot. Have to do with stock market and all those numbers that were associated with 68, 86, 618, and 816 during all the summer months that we found. Also, in the beginning of this episode, I didn't show you, there is a spider pig that goes across the clouds. That also has a 618. So he falls off the ladder. Here it shows him falling off. He fell off the ladder. So I just looked up ladder. It does equal Abraham and a 264, which would be a 288. And I am going to talk about the 8-8 episode of The Simpsons here that has to do with the hurricane. But I also need to remind myself that Abraham is a 123 number, and this could be part of the encoding of the Oregon shooting that was on the 123 meridian. And we saw the 123 and the 321 also encoded in the Pope visits. So no one took this to be a date, but we didn't know what it was, but it turned out to be a meridian. So this just, and here we have, oh, I wonder because now I guess that Obama, who runs on hope, right? That was one of his main words of his campaign. He's going to be going to this meridian. And we also need to notice that hope and Abraham also have this 44, which equals the 444 equals Oregon. So I wonder, there's more to decode here about the Oregon numbers and some of these. Look at this. This is the other pillar that we're talking about, having to do with the hurricane and the 288. Now, okay, this is very interesting because the 88th Simpson episode has to do with the hurricane, and this would be the other pillar. I don't know if that has anything to do with it. So, not that we need to be right, we just need to stretch our decoding skills. The more we chip away at this, the better we're going to get at this, and pretty soon we're going to be able to notice these things. Kill, of course, equals 59, and I think I've forgotten to mention this a lot. In the Jewish gematria, it equals 59, and that's the slave number in the 59 and the 95. It also equals slavery. And of course, this is very important. This is one of the letters in Tetragrammaton, and an important character. This 99 right here with the yod next to the 88, it does come up again with this Simpson episode. So anyway, he falls off the ladder right here. He could have fallen off hope. I don't know, what this was, but I just wanted to show you this. And now we're going to look at the 88 episode. One other thing I found out having to do with Joaquin and the Simpsons, I learned this, that Joaquin Isidro de Castro was one of the founders of San Francisco. I went to the San Francisco wiki page and searched. No, that's not it. I went to the San Francisco wiki page to search this, and I used my find, and I could not find his name on the San Francisco page. So whenever something's missing from wiki, I also get a little bit curious about that, especially when it has to do with San Francisco, and there's so much Masonic symbolism over there. So I'm not sure. I just wanted to mention that. I haven't really figured out what this is all about. But it does. I did find out more about this person, just that he was one of the founders. He was a major landowner, and one of the major landowners at the time, at the beginning of San Francisco. There's some really nice. Let me see if some really nice pictures. This is, I guess this, I don't know if this neighborhood is called Castro, but this is Castro above Market Street in San Francisco, looking south when the Bank of America was still Bank of Italy. And you can see how you could just spend all day researching these things because there's so many leads, right? Did you know that Bank of America used to be called Bank of Italy? I didn't. All right. Well, anyway, back to our story. So it is interesting that this episode, which was the 8/8 episode, does happen to be, and it was released on 12/29/1996, does happen to be 6,844 days from 9/25, which would be, if you shifted that from the Julian to the Gregorian, that would be today, which would be 10/8, which is kind of a spiritual number. The 108 today is a spiritual number. And I guess the storm itself is on its way to Portugal. So some more of the symbolic aspects of this hurricane. It's interesting that it's a male name originating in Hebrew, which means lifted by Yahweh. And I didn't know this, but it's the traditional name for the father of Mary, who is the mother of Jesus. And there's a Saint Joaquin. Originally, I don't know how to say this, but this was a king of Judah of the Old Testament. So I think I did go over this in one of my other Joaquin videos, but in the simple and English gematria, it equals Lord's Prayer, Tetragrammaton, Napoleon, Lord of Hosts, the Holy Spirit, and then up here in the Jewish Judgment Day, among other things. This El Faro story was also part of it. I really didn't get into that symbolism, but you can see that the numbers are symbolic, and when people go missing at sea, it's may be true, but it's also very symbolic to the story, and so that's why they put it in the news. They didn't put in the news the pictures I showed you before, where the storm looks very unnatural. So this is on the page of St. Joachim, who is the father of the Virgin Mary. And I didn't know this story either, that apparently Anne was barren, and so even though Joachim was wealthy and pious, his sacrifices were not welcome at the temple because of the barrenness of his wife. Well, he went to the desert and fasted and did penance, and then angels appeared and promised them a child. And so she was an elderly mother, I guess, when she had Mary. So I didn't know this story, but then the other interesting aspect is Joachim and Anne. This is a popular subject in artistic renderings of the life of the Virgin, where Joachim and Anne meeting at the Golden Gate. So let's take a look at. So this is a woodcut by Albrecht Dürer that depicts Joachim and Mary meeting at the Golden Gate. This must be the Golden Gate right here, after learning that they are going to have a child. Well, it's just very interesting that the Golden Gate is also in San Francisco, which was founded by Joaquin, let me find out his last name, Joaquin Isidro de Castro, and that he's not mentioned in the Wikipedia. I don't know. I just thought that's interesting about the Golden Gate and the father of the Virgin Mary, because the Virgin Mary is the symbolism that's drawn all over the world in the form of Inanna Ishtar, Isis, Marie, Virgin Mary, would be Diana, Artemis. Okay, so back to the EMP and this episode that I showed you here. This episode where Homer goes to prep school. So we just talked about this. So the episode mentions this date quite a few times, but also in the very front, which I just showed you, and just from the airing date to the date that it mentions is exactly 990 days. I'm going to show you another 99 in the 8/8 episode that has to do with the hurricane. But first, I want to go back to the episode and show you more about this episode. So Homer joins the Springfield Preppers, and here's the 232 gematria. Now this gematria right here we were interpreting as a date. However, this was also the simple gematria of Oregon. And right here, I know it's going to be hard to pick that out, but there is the meridian of Oregon in there too. And we know that 7/7 is probably, if I looked around, over there in Roseburg, I'd probably find a 7/7. All right, well, I want to show you the EMP numbers that I found. This happened at a nuclear power plant, so we're going to look at the nuclear EMPs and the regular EMP number. Okay, so here's the gematria of nuclear electromagnetic pulse, and it looks like it has a 927 date in it. Well, this could also be the 279th day of the year is October 6th. Well, that has passed. It could also be the 297th day, which I'll take a look at. But also, it has the 99 numbers in it. This isn't the 99 that I was going to show you. I hope I get to that one. But this 99 did pop up, so I want to mention this. So I think we need to be aware that the 297th day is also October 24th. So this would be a 10, a 102, or a 1024 if we saw it in other numbers. And there are 68 days remaining, and we know how they love this number. So I'm not just tossing out another date. I don't think that, we have to be afraid of these dates. I think we need to just be aware that these dates are coming and going, and things are actually happening on these dates. Things happen on 9/11, things happen on 9/23. The hurricane was pretty active on 10/6. These, they kind of had biblical names and, Judgment Day type of gematria. So this might be just another date to watch. Not that we all have to wait in fear or be judgmental, if something that, happens on a different coast than you thought, or something turns out to be a meridian instead of a date. I think we just are gathering our clues, figure out, and, all of us together, and we're going to start to learn how these things work. Now, nuclear EMPs can be caused by nuclear explosions, and this article goes into that. Here's the gematria for nuclear explosion, and it has the 106, but it also could be a 109. Sorry, my computer's low. So this could be a 106 or a 109. This could be a meridian. This could be something that we haven't figured out yet. We've seen some 313 numbers lately. I've brought those to you, and I think they were in the Oregon shooting, but now I'm going to have to go back and see what I find. maybe you remember. If you remember where we saw the 313 or the 133 numbers, please let me know. Then also we have a 222 here. This is the number of the Ham or Abraham. Also remembering that Abraham also has the gematria of 123, which equals the meridian of the Oregon shooting. Also, Abraham, in the actual story of the Bible, he was steered away, the Anunnaki gods, because he aligned himself with the Anunnaki gods, and he guarded their spaceports. If you read the Sitchin version of the Bible, or the Sitchin version of the the Sumerian tablets, it says that he had a camel army and he guarded the spaceports, and he won favor with the Anunnaki gods by showing his loyalty, also by being willing to sacrifice his child, although I don't remember that specifically being in the Sumerian tablets, but I can't say for sure. Well, he was steered away specifically, and Sitchin does come up with this idea because Sitchin talks about the nuclear war of 2024 BC, and he says that it looks deliberate, that Abraham was told to go in a different direction. So he was steered away from the nuclear explosions. And it's interesting that Ham equals 22. Buckingham Palace also refers to the covenant having to do with the slaves, which are the 22, the edible slaves. So looking up electromagnetic pulse in the gematria, we see lots of 33s. Now we saw 33s in both the Oregon shooting and the total of injured and dead on the height of the media of the day. I don't know what they've changed the numbers to now. Here's your 133 again. Both of these have these 8s in them. We're going to look at the hurricane episode, not in depth today, just brush on it, and then I'm going to watch it and see what I see for you. Also in the symbol gematria, we have the 22 and the 23 again, which we saw in this Homer episode called Homer Goes to Prep School. In the beginning, it shows him falling off a ladder, and I showed you that gematria too, and it highlights this. Besides, it's the 9th episode. I think it's, now I can't remember, it's either the 9th episode of the 24th season or the 24th episode of the 9th season. Yeah, I think it's the 24th of the 9th, because I see that the 9th has 25 in it. So very interesting, and that is about an electromagnetic pulse that is caused by Homer's lack of attention at his job at the nuclear plant. And the other thing I keep meaning to get to, I was going to scan down on that, and is that episode is also the episode that ends with a comet full of zombies coming towards the planet, and there's some timestamps to look at there, and some symbolism and gematria, of course. Okay, well, a quick date check from the airing of this episode having to do with the EMP. Since we've seen the 133 numbers, the 133 days does go to the 115, which would be 11.5, and this is the Freemason. If I pop this into the gematria counter, it would equal Freemason. So these are the permutations we need to be aware of, so you can see why it's pretty hard to choose one, right? So here's the gematria for Homer Goes to Prep School. You know, this could be a date in September or a date in October, or it could be, any kind of thing like this. So the other symbolism that happens in this episode that mirrors the other moment of the Treehouse Horror episode that I brought to you before, where they have the moment of madness where the family tries to kill each other with knives. This has a moment where it looks like an automatic alarm shots down the entire facility, and the women pass the time by telling stories of childbirth that the fathers instantly turn on each other and fight savagely. This is actually something that could happen with an EMP, so it's interesting that they put this in here, because an EMP could wipe memories, and your memories and your social conditioning in many cases is the only thing, unless you are very heart motivated and you really behave from your heart. Many people are socialized to control their violent impulses that they naturally have. Well, if they lose their socialization, if they lose their memory, they're going to go mad. And this is also foreshadowed in the Mad Max movie, where everybody goes mad, and that title is also 9/11. So these 9/11 is not only possibly a date or a meridian, but it's also symbolic of the struggle between ego and enlightenment. So hopefully an EMP won't happen, because I think we're going to need our memories. First of all, you'll be completely helpless without your memory, but also you will be around people who have no conditioning. On this topic, I did look up, because I looked this up when I was learning about how leaving Earth's magnetic field can cause a person to go mad, in terms of the Russian astronauts and those kind of stories. And I don't know what's really true or not, but they have a belt, a magnetic belt, that I'm sure the elite all have. They probably have it on their keychain, or maybe they always wear it on their belt, or that's like built into their phone or something like that. I bet you the elites have this, or this could be another reason why you would want to be underground, in case your belt would maybe cease to function during an EMP. Like, that's really possible. Because I always think, why would they want to be underground? What's going to happen? You know, why are there bunkers? So an EMP with memory loss, an underground bunker with a protected magnetic field might shield you from that memory loss. But also they do have their these things, these belts, but they cost a lot of money, and I don't think they need to cost that much money. They cost like thousands of dollars, but I don't think they would be that hard to build. So that's another clue to me that this technology is artificially inflated in the price, and that means that they don't want you to have it for some reason. Now, you can think of what would happen if the commoner's memory was wiped and the people in control, their memory wasn't wiped. You can kind of picture what would happen then, right? All right, so in the story, Marge and Homer take some food, and I in another video, which I can't remember the title of, I should make a Simpsons playlist, but in another Simpsons video I showed you all of the code that's in the background on the names of the food, what they choose to put in the background. There's code and all of that, and I've done that all in another video. Well, anyway, they go back to the town and they find out that the town has gotten over the EMP burst. But, which I think is kind of unlikely. You know, maybe they just didn't want to address human memory loss with an EMP burst. But our memories are magnetic. All right, well, anyway, while they're all standing around talking about peace and security, just like in the Bible, it's funny, just like on the Renee M channels, they're talking about peace and security and everything's fine and everything's wonderful. There's a meteor coming close to them carrying a horde of zombies. Let me show you this. I don't know what this means yet, but I often watch the different prices when they are scanning Maggie here. So the before price is 24326. See if I can catch this. Nope. All right, well, it's 486.52. So I guess it kind of shows, it's so fast, it kind of shows that she has a chip in her. We'll have to find out how much she costs. Hold on. Okay, well, she doubles the price. I have no idea what that means. But let's go back to the meteor. Okay, so she's going to give a little speech here, but let's notice that the clock says 8:16. It's not perfectly on the 15, so that's the Bride of Christ Phi 816 number that's on the Georgia Guidestones, and the skeletons below the Hoover Dam number.
Imperfect society is better than the savagery of creating a new one?
Living in an imperfect society is better than the savagery of creating a new one.
I, for one, am glad we're stuck to civilization, and I think we will be for a long, long time.
All right, so then we have the other quotes. I think I ran the gematria on those before too, so. All right, well, okay, so this Hurricane Nettie is, the name of the hurricane is actually Barbara, but it's the 8th episode of season 8, and the date here is a 2/9/29/12. There's a 99 in here now. I can't remember where it is. Oh, nope, let me find it. Hold on. Well, while I'm trying to remember that, this is, again, to repeat, according to my counting, this is the 150th episode. However, they choose to show you a 7/7 here. So we know that there's always 7 7s near these things. This is a 46 and a 64, which is another way of writing an 8/8, but it's also a 74 and a 47. So it's interesting that this hurricane blows through Springfield and destroys only Ned Flanders' home. and he's the Christian, of course. So we have, he goes through a major identity crisis with his place with God, which I think that's also happening right now with a lot of Christians. Maybe not, maybe only a few. But it's interesting that they have that aspect in here. All right, guys, well, I'm going to bring you some more short decodes that I've done by hand. And I'm also going to take a look at the news here. Here's, I guess, something from 23 minutes ago. This right now it's 11:11. No, actually it's not. Never mind. My computer clock is always wrong. Okay, so this is a cloud from today in Texas, and here's a view of hopefully maybe this is Greenland. I'm not sure where NASA is right now, but they say they're on Mars. Check my other video about the hurricane show, talking about this, a video of NASA found in Greenland with their Mars, orange NASA Mars trucks over there, and the rover. So I don't know where they are right here. So this is a Los Angeles Times that you probably can't see because of this, but so I just threw this into the geometry counter, this part that they put in red, because it seems like weird to put that in red, right? So it equals 2424. This is a 203 gate. We've seen this before. And then there's more of these 33s, which we have seen, you know, just basically the 33s are everywhere, but they're also in electromagnetic pulse, which I think that it's up in the codes that we need to pay attention to the possibility of this being one of the things that's predicted, possibly. You know, we're just getting used to the code again. We're not saying that we know for sure. All right, so also the ordeal really isn't over quite yet. In South Carolina, they're still warning of more floods. And I did put that in the geometry counter. This is red. It had a 918 in it, which is one of the codes that you see at the beginning, at the end of matrix, and it also has interesting ties to the 216 number, the 2160 diameter of time of zodiac age. So I don't know, that's the code I found in there. But they're talking about standing water for 2 weeks, and then down at the bottom they mention some of these numbers here, so that we have 22s, 26s, and the disaster could break the bank of the Federal Emergency Fund, possibly topping more than $1 billion. Let's see what break the bank is, because that's a BOB, or a BB. Okay, so it's a 264, which would be a 288. It might highlight the hurricane episode that we saw with the Simpsons. The Simpsons might have predicted a hurricane there. Also, this, of course, is an 88, as well as a 15, as well as a 1313. Now, a 1313 is also kind of the same as a BB, which is also the same as a 44, as we've seen in the Georgia Guidestones. This 98, of course, it's a 17, which makes it a Q, or a different version of pi. But since I just saw this in this red text right here, wait, no, it was this text, water rumbling toward the ocean. Since that has 918s in it, it makes me wonder if it's a version, where'd it go? If it's a version of 918 and the 2160 diameter of the zodiac age type of idea. You know, the changing of the ages has to do with rushing water, of course, with Aquarius. So something to think about with that symbolism, and especially the symbolism when it's associated with the 216 and its opposites, the 918 is it's a date opposite. I haven't explained how I do that. I need different names for these algorithms so that I can just, you know, say these different techniques. So I'll figure out what that is and tell you about it. Okay, so I think I mentioned this before in another video that I was calculating. I had the idea of 88 days from July 4th, and I didn't know what it was, but all of a sudden the idea of 930 popped into my head, so I put that in, and sure enough, it was 88 days. Well, 930 is one of the Hoover Dam numbers, and it's also these 33s and these 9s, I think are also associated with the EMP number. So anyway, I think I've showed you this before, I just want to show you again that how these numbers, how these dates might come down. So if we take the September 30th and we convert that to Gregorian, that's October 13th, so that's a 1013. Now this number has shown up in numbers for me lately, and I didn't notice it, and I didn't write it down. I looked at it though, I looked at it for a while because I looked at it and I remembered that the stock market picture was a 101 2. Yeah. And I had wondered if that was a jam sign from the Georgia Guidestones. So it's interesting that the 1013, anyway, I didn't, it's just too many numbers. I didn't write that one down, so I wasn't tracking that number very well. But this number, so if you, hang on one more second. So this is October 13th, is the 286th day with 79 days remaining. Now, this is interesting because the 106 numbers, that was the 279th day, and we saw the JFK warning about that you need to build bunkers. That came on the 1006 of, I believe, 1961, and then the Pope also visited in 1979, so that was another 79 reference. And because there's so many 106s, you know, we thought that it maybe had to do with 106, but we need to look at all the 79s and all the 86s, and this is another permutation of that date. Plus, this is the 113. This would be a 1013, so this would be a gateway with a 113 on it, and a 113 is the number that they love to use. First of all, in in Obama's name, Obama Hussein Barack, there are 113s coded twice in each of those names. I think it's in 2 of the names. And then also we need to remember that the Freedom Tower was dedicated on 11/3. Fukushima happened on a 3/11. And I think the root of these dates, of these 113 dates, goes all the way back to the Mayan long count calendar of the long cycle of destructive cycle of the sun, which brings us back to the Arctic blob connection, because that's what they talked about. That's how they went. That's what they described when they went extinct, or in 647 AD, which would have been the reoccurrence of that long count. It would have started again in that date. Well, so here we have these 86 numbers again, the 68s and the 79s. So just to pay attention to this. All right, I'll just give you a few seconds of this here. If it's interesting, I'll bring you it in another episode. So at the 104 count, which possibly could be October 4th, Lisa comes to the conclusion that her instruments are telling her about a hurricane.
I think a hurricane is coming!
All right, so just back to one more date. I think you're going to like this one. So I wanted to see, since I found that 1013 date, possibly I wanted to check that with July 4th, and that equals a 101. So I think, you know, I don't know. I don't know what it all means. I'm just putting the numbers together and I'm showing you these things. So anyway, I hope you're having a good day. Thanks for watching. Talk to you later.